Okay, so today we are going to talk about your business, which is Las Vegas Wine Cellars. You were recently featured in the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Holy crap, that's a big accomplishment.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, let's dive into what got you into, well, first off, wine, because I know you're also a sommelier.
Correct.
But you have clearly a passion and obsession for wine. So can you guide the viewers? What was the impetus for doing this?
Definitely. So I grew up in Georgia, but I came out here when I was 19 and went to UNLV, and basically did that because I was extremely interested in hospitality, food and beverage, hotels, basically the entertainment part of the job, and had a great career and great time doing that. I worked on the Strip for about 15 years. Wow. I did everything from fine dining server, bartender, sommelier. I did the butler at the Wynn for about 4 years and got to see some pretty crazy stuff and just be around a lot of high net worth individuals and people that were drinking extremely rare and expensive wines, and got to kind of regularly serve open pour wines from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s to the 2000s and even more recent ones. Wow. I was really fortunate to work with some really great sommeliers and some people in the industry that kind of helped mentor and guide me over the years. But I just always had a really strong passion for cooking, and my first jobs were in restaurants when I was 15 and 16 years old, washing dishes, and then moved up to line cook and garmager and salads, and kind of did everything.
What is a garmager?
It's basically the guy that does the salads and the cold appetizers in the kitchen. So
fancy names.
Yeah, they have the French versions of the kitchens where each station is broken down into different areas. But I kind of always had a passion for food and beverage, basically since a young age.
And clearly service, because this was all in the service industry.
Correct. So I've kind of had a natural hospitality gene, I think, and just enjoyed that part of the job and life. So
right. And then you went from super focused on the customer experience to building something inside their homes.
Correct. I had a company for a while that I was doing. It was kind of a blend of property management and concierge and butler services. So I had clients that had vacation homes here that were very high net worth individuals that it was just for their friends and family to use. They weren't doing any sort of Airbnb or short-term rentals or anything like that. But these were multi-million-dollar homes and condos that we basically treated as a hotel for them. So when they were gone, I would kind of check in on the place and make sure that everything's running. There's no leaks.
Of course.
Letting in regular service providers.
The true white glove service.
Correct. And then when they came to town, I would do everything from their grocery shopping. I would make all their dinner reservations, show tickets, limos, golf tee times, massages, and kind of book and plan their itinerary. Deliver tickets, and I even got into doing VIP hosting, where there'd be times where their kids would come in and they'd go out on a night on the town, and I'd basically kind of shadow them and make sure that they were getting into these nightclubs and restaurants, and
you were a one-person hotel.
Yeah, walking them through and getting them into the limousines and things like that. So I did a lot of really high-end kind of concierge and butler services for people like that.
Wow.
And one of my clients ended up having me kind of oversee a big renovation project they did on their house. And one of the things they put in the area next to the kitchen was a wine room. And that kind of had me researching and looking for somebody that could do that in town. And I realized that there was nobody in town doing that. They found a company out of Arizona that they were worked with, and they came here and did the project. But I basically kind of had the idea then to transition to starting a company that did wine cellars. I felt that I had the sales and the service experience side and dealing with clients that kind of wanted that. And this allowed me to kind of transition into more of a design, build, and construction industry as opposed to hospitality industry.
I mean, it's still very, people focused.
It definitely is. I do at times miss kind of opening and pouring wine all the time. It is a lot of fun to do that and to be able to try different things, over the years,
Sure.
things like that. I was able to sample and try and taste wine that I would never, in my lifetime right now,
I can only imagine.
spend money on it. I mean, there's bottles that we did at the Wynn that are, $100,000 a bottle on things like that. It's
I
crazy.
mean, knowing the Wynn and its reputation, that does not surprise me at all.
So, but those players were playing $500,000 a hand at baccarat and high-end gaming. So
they would comp them.
It's all very relative.
Right.
But the design side has been great. So I think it's been a wonderful transition to kind of move from the hospitality side to more of the construction side.
Sure. And so I'm noticing a lot of wine cellars in all of the houses that are like 5 million and above. Like, it's become an obsession. Like, even in the $1 million homes, like literally at $1 million, like people are installing custom wine cellars.
Definitely, and I've seen a lot of what we call display cellars. So we do kind of both styles. When we talk about wine cellars, I try to steer people into, there's basically two categories. There's the display cellar, which is usually behind glass and has some sort of custom racking and lighting and accent wall materials, all the finished stuff, and it looks wonderful. Yeah. And it's really good to kind of show off some stuff, but it's not necessarily climate controlled. Okay. And refrigerated. Having a refrigerated room definitely just increases the cost of the project.
Of course, that's HVAC basically.
Yeah, it's a HVAC system. So it's, the only ones that we do out here are like split systems. So it's going to have an outdoor condensing unit with refrigerated line sets that run to the indoor, either air handler or air blower. They have those as ductless units, ducted systems. There's kind of good, better, and best. Right. But at the end of the day, that's introducing a whole new mechanical system to the house that needs its own electrical systems and proper insulation and vapor barriers.
And holes in every single aspect to run it through.
So it is a lot more invasive to add refrigeration to a unit, to a house after it's been built. Sure. I think you're starting to see a lot more home builders basically build those refrigerated rooms when they're doing the construction, because it's much easier to...
Only at a certain price point. I'm not even seeing that offered like in a $2 million home.
Yeah, I think it's that 5, 10, 15, 20.
That's that like true semi-custom, like where you have full design, like, hey, I want to just move this wall a little bit. Yeah. Those builders will do that. But otherwise, I'm seeing people just custom do it. I was recently in a home that was 1.7, and they had like this 3-foot room by, I don't know, let's call it 7 feet, 3 by 7. And it was air conditioned too. And so it's all glass. And I was thinking like, okay, $2 million, you're getting it. $6 million, you're getting like almost a football stadium. Yeah. And when you go to $10, $20 million, I can't even imagine the wine rooms that they have.
It's impressive. I've seen some huge ones that hold 2, 3, 4, 5,000 bottles of wine, and I mean it's the size of like a bedroom, Oh yeah.
I went to a $15 million property one time, and they had basically a liquor room. It was refrigerated, and there was literally like a jail type enclosure, so no one that's touring the property can go in and steal anything.
Oh man!
And this is like a fortified house.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of trying to find out or figure out what caused this spark of we have to have a wine room and we have to have it now, because this is relatively recent. Like in the last 20 years, it's gone from, oh, he has a wine room to, oh my God, do you have a wine room? You need a wine room.
I think it's, some of it's that whole keeping up with the Joneses mentality of, once enough people started getting it, then everybody else wants to have one too, just to kind of maintain comparable, amenities and things like that. Because when we talk about ultra luxury homes, there are certain standard features that the buyer has come to start to expect now. You should have a nice pool. It should have a good sized garage and gym room, or like there's these certain areas of the house that I think that are almost necessary at a price point like that.
Of course.
And wine room has basically slipped into that kind of expected area and the interesting part with the Las Vegas market and what we do here is that typically in what wine rooms were for the longest time was really a cellar, underground basement, place to very utilitarian area of storing and aging wine, but it was downstairs, hidden in the dark, dusty, damp corner of the house, and no one saw it.
A basement cellar.
A basement cellar. And the advantage of those is it's really good for aging wine, but if you I grew up on the East Coast, people have actual basements out there and things like that. So you can, by going underground, really create that stable condition of 55 degrees is the ideal temperature to store that out. But because we don't have basements out here and nobody does that, you're starting to see these wine rooms basically move to the first floor and almost like one of the first things you see when you open the door.
Yeah, it's the primary attraction.
We call it the wow factor almost. As soon as you open the door, it's like it's one of the first things that catches your eyes. So it's interesting to see how the wine cellar of the house has kind of gone from the relegated areas to at the bottom that no one really sees, that you're just going and bringing bottles up to now this is I'm showing off this collection of wine.
Right. It's funny because you go from a dining room section, you have a specific room where you eat and then the whole wall is just wine. So you can literally just ask your guest hey, which one would you like? Yeah. And it's an interactive experience. It just adds a whole layer of more, interactiveness. I think I used interactive a couple extra times, but it's an extra layer of being able to choose and show off, and it's really cool. Now, going back to those relegated basements, those you didn't need to do HVAC into those.
Correct, because when you go underground, the earth is a wonderful insulator where kind of regardless of spring, summer, winter, fall, if you go a few feet down underground, it's basically kind of the same temperature year round. And that's where those temperatures came from. Of the ideal range for wine is 55 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit for cellaring and aging wine, with 55 degrees being the ideal temperature. So you want to get as close as you can to 55. You can achieve those conditions underground, whereas we're trying to basically recreate those cellaring conditions with using modern refrigeration systems. But refrigeration and HVAC has only been around for a very short period of time. They've been making wine for thousands of years now.
Oh yeah.
So for most of the world's history, wine was made and aged just in underground cellars, like they still do today throughout the world. But in places like where we live now, it's
you really need to focus on proper storage and proper refrigeration
and proper construction to build it out so that your system's going to work properly and things like that. A lot of people just are not very familiar with the kind of needed construction for adding refrigeration. To do it properly, for a room like this, the drywall would need to come off. We need to make sure that there's proper insulation and vapor barriers and moisture barriers, and then building back with water-resistant drywall and kind of creating this enclosed, insulated, protected space so that you don't run into issues of mold or mildew in the future.
A refrigerated bubble.
Or the refrigeration just not being able to keep up because it's just losing all that thermal efficiency through the uninsulated walls and things like that.
So I know that really high-end buyers are building on dirt and they're excavating. Are you potentially willing to offer something like an underground cellar build out through your company?
It's something that I haven't done yet. I think it's because at that point, I think it's almost like before the constructions began, where, in my opinion, that almost needs to be done by the original home builder. And that's just not something that I'm kind of licensed for, or just that's kind of getting out of my realm of expertise of foundations and concrete and excavating and all that stuff. It's a little bit above my pay grade, so to speak.
I got you. But okay, so what do you kind of see the future of wine cellars looking like? Right now, we're going for really opulent wine cellars. like I think that we're not yet at the pinnacle of it, but I feel like it's still evolving to the point where I think major changes are kind of still on the horizon.
Definitely. I think it's been definitely trending to the more modern contemporary styles these days. We've done a few that are these kind of old world style where it's almost looks like you're at a steakhouse where it's all wood and you're talking about, you know, mahoganies and oaks and walnut and things like that. You know, hardwoods that are doing very traditional looking cellars. That style, while still popular with some, is just, especially in Vegas, everything's moved to more of this desert contemporary, modern contemporary looks. So you're starting to see a lot more of these all metal or mixed materials like metal and acrylic and, you know, panel materials, synthetic materials, things like that. So
I call it Dubai future chic.
Exactly. And the LED lighting is another big aspect of that. LED is a perfect light for wine rooms because there's no UV light to it. There's no heat. It's a very gentle light for the actual like wine. And so that you're seeing a lot of projects that I've done that people are doing the like color plus tunable white lighting so that they can leave it on white, you know, most of the time if they want to. It looks nice, but they have the option of doing pink, purple, green, blue, red, and discos.
Valentine's theme.
And really start to get like colorful options on the lighting. So
if you don't mind, what was your favorite project in like recent memory?
Recent memory, man, I've done some good ones.
And we'll have a couple pictures.
Yeah, definitely. So I've done a bunch that have been what we kind of call a hybrid solution lately. So instead of refrigerating the entire room, we're doing custom cabinetry and things like that, but we're building in like, you know, wine refrigerators or appliances into that space.
Oh, wow.
So it still allows you to have temperature control options for aging fine wines, but it's a little bit different of a style. You don't necessarily need to glass it in because the refrigerator's holding it. So it's more about doing some of these beautiful, you know, custom cabinets and countertops and the racking on top. So we'll either do racking from the countertop to the ceiling or something coming off the wall. And I think that there's been some great projects that are a good solution for a lot of people, especially when you're adding it on as a renovation project. It's not necessarily a new build, to be able to do that. And I think the other advantage of that is that because you're not refrigerating the entire space, that you can have some of that shelving and some of that display area be for spirits like you know, scotch, tequila, whiskey, rum,
of course,
vodka, gin, things like that, where you don't necessarily want to keep that at 55 degrees, but you have this beautiful, you know, stone countertops.
At some point, that goes from wine cellar to liquor room.
Yeah,
it becomes a whole liquor experience.
So I think those have been some great projects. It wasn't the biggest project, but we did the wine rack server for the Mark Davis house for the Raiders owner.
Right in Moscaya.
And again, his entire house is insane. It is.
I've seen it from a distance. That beautiful black and white UFO.
It is quite a unique house. So it was fun to be able to do a project in there.
That's crazy. Anything you want to shout out? Do you want to kind of talk about introductory prices or?
Yeah, so I think for ballpark numbers, again, when we talk about the cellar projects I do, there's basically display cellar and then refrigerated cellars.
And keep in mind, all of these prices are subject to change. Nothing stays, you know, the same construction, and this is just for illustrative purposes only.
But in essence, our display cellars basically start at around 15,000 and go up to roughly 40 to 50,000. For kind of display cellars, and kind of depending on the size, the scope, you know, like some are including glass enclosures, some are not, some are including.
It's all based on material, realistically.
Flooring and, you know, kind of how much of a build out there is. I'd say that on average, the refrigerated like wine rooms we do kind of start around that 40 to 50 and then go up to 6 figures.
That's pretty reasonable.
So it's there's kind of a, you know, big difference between the refrigerated and the display cellars, though.
It's also the difference between, you know, just putting something down versus literally burrowing through the whole house to get.
Exactly.
It requires a lot of precision. It also requires permitting because you're either putting it on the roof, you're putting it on the side of the house, and you're drilling through, you know, potentially studs and other important parts of the house.
we want to make sure that we're doing it, you know, from an engineering standpoint properly, where it's, you know, it's going to hold the weight of the wine that we're doing. Some of these like wall panels we've done that, you know, had bottles that we have hundreds of bottles on the wall, and you know, with a bottle of wine basically weighing 2 to 3 pounds, you know, if you put 500 bottles up there, that's
a load.
1,000 pounds of weight that we want to make sure it doesn't come shearing off and things like that. So
that's a fairly serious load.
So we want to, you know, ensure the long-term survivability of the room. But I think there's kind of a wide range in the prices. But again, it kind of comes down to the size, the capacity, bottle counts, things like that.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. Okay, so obviously I'm going to put your information in the description below, but in case people are too lazy to, you know, go there, how do we find you?
I'd say the best thing to do is to go to our website right now, LasVegasWineCellars.com. I basically get pretty much all of my leads from there. We have a contact us submission page on there that allows you to put, you know, name, email, phone number, and then you can attach a picture or two if you have any design inspiration or see any projects that you just like the look of, and this is kind of the style you want to go for. And then I try to be as quick as I can to reply to people and set up an in-home consultation and walkthrough. Every house is unique, so depending on where you want to put, you know, the wine room in your house, it always helps to come out and take a look and see kind of the logistics and feasibility of adding the stuff that we want to do there, as far as you know, like, is it single story or 2-story, and is there, you know, room or attic space or any crawl space, you know, above the area,
size constraints, weight constraints,
you know, where is the electrical panel, where are we going to try to locate mechanical equipment, you know, how much cutting or how invasive do we need to be to do this project?
Do we need to use architectural steel to make sure that everything is
definitely
that's
so I try to you know, take a look at it in person and take some pictures, and then I do everything in a 3D modeling program called SketchUp. So I'm able to take kind of pictures and dimensions when I'm at the house, and then build a 3D model from there. And then I have my kind of entire digital library of the racks that I have that I can then drag and drop into the model, and everything's to scale. And I know that if it works in the 3D model, that this is going to fit in.
You have a virtual rendering of it, and it's just like, do you like it? And people usually go, yes, this is amazing. Yes. And then you literally build that thing.
And then I can just build from, this is what the design, this is the rendering, and this is the finished product. And it's like, this is exactly what we designed, and this is exactly what we installed.
That's crazy. All right. Well, thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.